Well, welcome once again to another work ethic podcast. I'm sitting here today with Ethan from Thirst. Which, how do you say your last name?
Cisneros.
Cisneros.
Cisneros. Yep.
What is that?
It's Hispanic.
It's Hispanic. All right.
I'm a quarter Mexican, believe it or not.
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I became for those listening, this is the first time Ethan and I have had a chance to speak at all. We spoke for maybe 30 seconds before jumping into this, but we're just jumping in and recording it, and I'm excited. I appreciate you making some time to do this. So
Of course.
I became aware of Ethan and Thirst really. So I think it was the last Ask Gary V episode of 2019. Amy Landino was the guest on there, and they did call-ins, which I always love because you just get such variation in the Q&A or whatever. Yeah. Well, Ethan called in, and I think was a third of that episode. Like, there was just it was like a very long call in that. But you guys, like, I remember I was really intrigued by the conversation, and so because you guys dove into kind of your social media presence and Thirst, and then Ethan from Thirst and that account, of course I'm listening and I'm like, oh, I'll just pull that up and follow along. And so I followed and then started watching. So Ethan is very good at kind of documenting his journey and has a business you're in Salt Lake City, right? In Utah. And so, yeah, as I've watched along, and, obviously I'm someone that, because of this show, I'm just interested in talking to people from all walks of life, all kinds of work, from entrepreneurs to missionaries to just employees or laborers, like, about our relationship with work and this and that. And you're just a dude that, from what I could tell, really like demonstrates real work ethic. And I was like, man, I really want to dig into that and ask you about that. And so, yeah, man, let's do this. Let me just shut up and ask you to just jump in. And for those that haven't been following along, don't know the kind of business, that's how I came to know you. Why don't you just jump in and introduce yourself to everybody?
Yeah. My name is Ethan Cisneros. Like you said, I'm from Salt Lake City, Utah. I'm an entrepreneur. I don't know. I always tell people, I don't know if I'd necessarily, when I was really little, classify myself as like, oh, he was an entrepreneur from like super, super young. But, kind of fitting for this podcast, I've always been a really hard worker, and I've always kind of been into that. I've always kind of like understood that was a really big variable of success in anything, whether it was like my little league sports, whether it was my lawn mowing business early on, whether it was just, anything, pretty much anything. I mean, it is the variable, right? And so I was like, man, if I just work harder than all these people, then I've got a really good chance of doing well. And so I think from a really young age, I understood that. I was into sports, but I was also like, my first legit business was I started a lawn mowing company with one of my buddies when we were 10 or 11. And we literally just walked and we couldn't drive. So we walked our lawnmowers like a mile each way, met each other at this house, mowed it, made $20, and then kind of kept the momentum rolling and expanded it pretty big. And so when I was time I was 10 to 15, I was always mowing lawns. Like when my friends came home and they were hanging out and doing whatever they did after school, I was immediately mowing lawns every single day after school, before school sometimes. So I did that from 10 to 15. When I was 16, I wanted to open, I kind of noticed around town. I don't know where are you from? I don't even know.
Yeah, I'm in Tampa, Florida.
Okay. Do they have shaved ice shacks out there?
I know, I'm familiar with it, and probably there's one around town. It's not a big thing though, but yeah.
Now in Utah, Utah is really into these destination brands, something to go do. And shaved ice was kind of a small scale of what I noticed that early on. And so people would go here not only on the weekends, but every single day in the summer. And I start like, as me just being a little businessy kid, entrepreneur kid, I liked making money. I'm like, man, like I started like listening to the order. Like I would go there just to meet up with my friends. That was the kind of thing to do. But I was kind of listening to the orders. Then I started going by myself. I'm like, okay, there's like hundreds of snow cones being sold tonight. I started doing a little research and found out how much those cost. But what really intrigued me was like, man, this is like the place to be, this snow cone shack. And I was like, man, it's weird. It's like less about the product. It's more just about the place. And so, yeah, I was like, I can do this, and I can do a better job. And so I opened one right above my high school. I went to a high school called Olympus High School. I opened a shaved ice shack called Olympus Ice right above my high school to kind of make it the hangout thing. And that was kind of the first business that I learned all parts of the business. So then I kind of put the lawn mowing on hold. I put everything into the shaved ice shack, and learned how to do marketing, pay taxes, hire employees, do payroll, like all real type business stuff. And it was really super fun. It was super successful. Did that for 3 years
Now,
until
wait, how old were you then when you
so
started that?
so I just got my license. So I was 16.
Okay.
And so, yeah, that's the first time I like had employees and kind of did it real. Then I did that for the next 3 summers.
Uh-huh.
And then I was just about to turn 19. And that's when my business partner and so I actually had a business partner in the shaved ice. At the time, I couldn't afford one of the buildings that you operate. Basically, how it works is you get a building and you put it in the parking lot. And I
Wait,
mean, you have to obviously have a lease,
this is like
line everything
like
up.
a portable building?
Yeah, I mean, it was like a probably 15 by 15 building.
Okay.
And you had to go out and find a parking lot to put the shaved ice building in. So that I did. I had to go out and work, negotiate with a property owner. Then I had to go get a license from the city. Then I'd go to get a business license, have all the inspections come out. And then we dropped this building literally on this parking lot. And then we hooked up power to it and everything. And yeah. And so that was the time I was 15 to 18.
Yeah.
And it was super real business. I mean, it probably did $60,000 in sales in the summer. So, I mean, super real for me,
So that's huge. Yeah.
Yeah. And
that just ran seasonally. That was like a summer.
that was just seasonally.
Pop
Yep.
up
That was
kind of
just
thing.
seasonally.
Okay.
And so in the winter time, I was doing a Christmas light hanging business. So I kind of did 2 seasonals, and yeah, and that was a couple of the early on first businesses in my career, kind of the 3 little businesses I started off with: mowing lawns, Christmas lights in the winter, and then shaved ice was kind of the one where I started having employees and doing it legit.
Let me ask you real quick about the Christmas light. So I actually ran into a guy that does that. So it's seasonal, right? It's just at Christmas time. And he, what do they call it? Let us hang your lights or something, right? And he's like, yeah, you go put them up and then you go take them down. And from my understanding, he makes his annual living in like 2-3 months. Like it just like, we work a couple months a year. How, like, that left an impression on me. Hearing that, I was like, oh, I'm gonna get into the Christmas light game. But like, how was that for you? Was it really good?
To me, it's like a supply and demand thing. Like, there's not that many people that want to get on these roofs and do this job, And so basically, and especially during Christmas time, it's like there's so much demand for it, and everyone knows that they kind of want Christmas lights, but no one wants to get up there, especially in a place like Utah where there's snow.
It's freezing.
Like, you don't want to mess with that.
Yeah.
And so you're basically paying for convenience and, someone willing to do it. And so you can make a killing. I've like, there's the thing about it is, it's all labor. There's not that much overhead. You can charge them for the actual lights if you're hanging their lights. So I think there's pretty good margins in it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, okay. So how does this all lead into what you're currently doing, and tell everyone what Thirst is?
Yeah. So, graduated high school, was kind of looking for something maybe a little bit more to do. Was having a lot of fun. My business. So, I was telling you about my business partner, how I met her through the shaved ice. I didn't have enough money to buy one of these buildings. And this lady was selling one. She had it on her property or something. I'd bought a property. I had one of these buildings on it. And I was like, hey, I don't have any money, but like, I have a really awesome business plan. She happened to like own a bakery, and she was an entrepreneur too. And she's like, all right, let's do it. And so I ran the shaved ice shack, and I just gave her a portion of my sales. She let me use the building. And kind of the story that leads in today is she just watched me work really hard and trusted me after running the shaved ice. And we saw a little gap in Utah. There's something called drinks and treat shops is really popular out here. So basically you can go get a soda with extra flavors, fruits and creams into it. So kind of like a mocktail almost.
Yep.
But so like coconut and fresh lime Diet Coke is really popular. And then you pair it with cookies, treats, other things like that. And so that's what it was at the time. And it was blowing up all over. It was kind of to me like the shaved ice thing. Like, that you could probably go to Maverick and get the same thing cheaper, maybe not wait in line as long. But for some reason, everyone's still going there. Like, it's still a place to hang out. People want to go there. And really what I started to understand, this is what a brand is. This is what brand sells, is an experience, is something beyond just the monetary value.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I think we can do a really good job of this. None of these, so this industry is pretty big in Utah. It hadn't really hit the Valley of Salt Lake yet. Saw a little bit of gap in the market, and we ended up opening what is Thirst Drinks and Treats. And so what we are is and this was 4 years ago. What we are is a drinks and treats company. And so we have a brick and mortar store in downtown Salt Lake on 1300 South and just west of State Street. There, most of our business happens through the drive-through, but we have a big walk-in too. We sell any type of soda, water, lemonade you can think of with flavors, fruits, creams put into it, Italian sodas. So drinks across the board, and then treats to go with it. So our kind of thing was we do soft pretzel bites. That's one thing we're most popular for. So you can come get a Diet Coke and some soft pretzel bites. We have all kinds of cookies, fresh baked cinnamon rolls. And so it's a destination for drinks and treats. It's a super fun experience. What I always tell people is we sell an experience, not necessarily just a product. People don't necessarily know us for one specific thing, but they know us for our brand and our experience. And so I noticed that early on, and we've really just kind of tripled down on it. And anyways, yeah, we've grown. We're opening our 4th location right now. We're building it out up in a few cities over in a place called Mill Creek. So super, super excited about it. It's going really well.
That's where you just came from, right? You were you came from over at the new spot?
Yeah. So I feel like I've been putting out fires today, the last couple months, honestly. Early this morning, I was meeting a locksmith out at the new location, and then some demo team was ripping out the floor this morning. So I was up there meeting with a contractor and helping them get all ready to finish ripping everything to shreds out there that's existing. Then I was just at our commercial kitchen helping make all the pretzel dough for the day.
Yep.
And then I just dropped that off at our downtown store, which I have an office kind of upstairs where I am right now. Mm-hmm. And just barely got back. But yeah, my hands are still covered in dough.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Man, yeah. So God, already you've kind of hit on so many things I wanted to ask you about. That's great. Well, by the way, let me just ask you about putting fires out. You also had I guess you had an oven go down yesterday or a couple days ago.
Yeah.
That sucks, dude. So do you guys have you have a kitchen on location that's like part of the building there? Is like you got a space is a commercial kitchen in it or something?
So we've kind of outgrown our downtown store was our main store. It was our first location, and it's really busy. Like when I tell you it's really busy, like it's really busy. And
it looks like it.
Like today we'll have 15 car drive-through lines, like most of the afternoon. So it gets pretty crazy. And so we've outgrown it, like our cooking or making product capabilities in there.
Volume,
so, and so I rented out a commercial kitchen just down the road until we're able to remodel this store. We're going to remodel this current store we're in, but first our focus is we're having another brick and mortar location. So our other 2 locations are in the Utah Jazz Arena.
Awesome.
So we're there for all the jazz games, all the concerts in there. It's a pretty sweet location. Just an iconic arena. It just got rebuilt. It's apparently one of the nicest in the NBA now.
Can I ask you a question about that? Because I just heard this about our hockey stadium here locally or whatever. Talked to a business owner that has their business in there. Uh-huh. And they said it functions a little like an airport where there's like a staffing agency that runs, like you basically put your brand in. And does it run similar there, or is it like you're operational?
Ours doesn't. And I think it's called the Vivint Smart Marina. I think they really want on this. They just rebuilt it, and I think they might have restructured how they do things too.
Yeah.
We run everything there. So they have subcontractors and then the restaurant group that runs the place. Okay. So ours is, it's not like that for us. So we also have a University of Utah location.
Okay.
Now that one runs like that.
It does.
And yeah, it does. So it's basically a franchise model for us. Right?
Yep.
I don't like it as much.
That was a question I wanted to ask you about. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, to be totally honest,
both experience.
Yeah. So kind of a funny story. So our Jazz Arena location was our second location. That one crushes everyone, it's always sold out. Every time. They're really good to us. They built us a beautiful location up there. We have an awesome agreement. They took a good chance on us when they're rebuilding the place. It's been awesome. We always make money, because it's more just about making the orders, less about the people are already there at an arena, On the flip side, our University of Utah location, I talk openly about it now. It almost put our company out of business when I opened it. So that was our third location that we opened. It was if you want me to tell the story, I will.
Go for it, dude. That's what, yeah.
So yeah, our third location, University of Utah. We had just opened the Jazz Arena location, so we only still had one brick and mortar store. And I had been trying to pitch the idea of putting my concept into the University of Utah for over a year and a half, 2 years. Finally got it all worked out. Big launch for it. Got super excited. Hired a big team to run the location, and it's in the eating hall of the dorms kids. So all the kids that live on campus, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of them don't have cars. They're kind of the ones that live there. They're doing the college experience. I don't like to put like a single reason on why it doesn't work. I still honestly haven't really figured it out. Yep. I have a couple. I mean, the answer was it just didn't take off at all. We were doing very minimal sales up there. I think there was a couple things. The location wasn't ideal. Each semester, the dorms renew, and so there's a new group of people living in the dorms. And so I think that might have had a little bit to do with it. As soon as we got a new customer base, like they got 2 months later, they got refreshed. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of difficult. And possibly it's just that college kids are not our ideal demographic. We do see them a lot at our other stores, but it's what it is. So, yeah, that one was doing really bad. It was costing me so much. My biggest expense is labor, you know. It takes a lot to make these orders and stuff. It was costing me so much just to run the store that it was putting my other locations out of business because it was having to fund them. And so I went to the university and I was like, okay, this isn't working. They still really wanted the brand up on campus. They valued the brand. And so they're like, hey, well, maybe we can flip the model and kind of do more of a franchise setup. And so, yeah, that's what we've been doing ever since then. It's worked out good. You know, I'm happy to still have the brand up there at, you know, a win-win kind of situation.
So that's good. So they were able to kind of take care of the operations side of it. Go, we're going to just staff it with our meal hall people or whatever. You kind of train us and we carry your brand forward. And then they just, you take a cut on sales. Then they give you some,
I don't make any money from it. Like sales are so low. Like I don't make any money from it. I look at it as a win-win though. I mean, our brand's still up there. If anything, it leads to sales funneling down to another store.
For sure.
New opportunities some ways. The only thing I get kind of worried about it sometimes is, are we keeping the quality up there, you know, that it doesn't hurt the rest of the brand. But it seems pretty minimal traffic, and they've been doing a pretty good job up there. So.
Well, and I mean, I imagine this could be really good, just data for down the road. If like, you know, if I hit you up and I'm like, yo, I want to do something over here, right? It's like, I've run this before. Like you've run through this experience, right?
And I mean, it's just another like grounding point for the brand, you know, like we wouldn't want our competitor to move in there, you know, and like own part of, we're really in downtown Salt Lake. So that would suck to have a competitor move into University of Utah, which is in downtown Salt Lake, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
So, yeah. So almost lost it there, but ended up pulling out. And I don't know, I learned a lot from it. Like it's very cool to talk about opening a new location, but there's very, very real expenses and overhead that for as many wins as I look like I have on the board as an entrepreneur, and I do feel like I have a lot of them, I've definitely I almost went out of business. So
yeah,
closed down that location. So yeah, it's not all glamorous. To your point, putting out fires. I mean, I feel like that's all I'm doing, especially like right now opening this new store. I was really excited to do it. I kind of wanted to be in a little bit more liquid place when I did do it. And so it's made like things be really intense. I've really had to go on the offense to drive sales because we don't have any funding. I mean, I'm doing it all internally. And yeah, so it's been pretty crazy. Yeah, like you were saying, the oven went out and just XYZ. We're double booked catering tonight. We were double booked yesterday. We've got a big pretzel order tonight. And so it's game time.
Yeah, these are good problems to have though, right? Like it sounds like it's the bandwidth and capacity is a real challenge, but and so I know you have all these locations and you have like a lot of teams in place to be at all these places. Like so one of the things that stood out to me when I first heard you was I'm 22. You're still 22, right? And so I was like, man, this is a tremendous amount kind of early on. And by the way, you're in college still?
So this is the first semester I haven't taken classes.
Probably a
As
good idea.
as I'm opening this new store, yeah. I'm hiring probably another 35 people.
Yep.
And so that would bring our company to 60, 70 people.
That's
And
incredible.
so it's the first time I kind of pumped the brakes on it. I wasn't doing a good job before. I was going to mention about when I was talking about the University of Utah location. When I opened Thirst, first 4 years I was fully going to school.
Yep.
Simultaneously to opening Thirst, but this is the first semester I've taken off. I'm not sure when I'm going to circle back to it. I can see a lot of work. I've got a lot of work on the horizon. So
Yeah.
I wasn't doing it. The other thing is I wasn't doing a good enough job. Like the last 2, 3, 4 semesters, honestly, that I was in school. I mean, to me, everything's just about priorities. Like I just wasn't able to prioritize it at all.
Mhm.
And I mean, we can get into school at whatever, but I didn't think I was getting a ton of value out of it for what was going on. So pump the brakes for right now.
What are you studying?
Well, I was pursuing a business degree, which ended up, I was going to do a finance degree. Ended up, I was like, there's no way I'm finishing this while running my business. So I switched to a communications degree, which I'm still not that close to after 4 years. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, so I have a bunch of questions I want to ask you, but one of those, I guess, just triggered by what you were just saying is like I don't know, just decision making. So you had to go, okay, I decided to pump the brakes on going to college. You got to make decisions every day running your business. Decision to go, hey, we're like, I imagine this new location's costing a bit. You got to they got to take on a lot of risk. You got to like put out a lot of funds on the front end of this. Like you've made a lot of decisions, and decisions it cut off other options. They involve risk. They come at a price or a sacrifice. I don't know. I'd like to hear you just talk about this like specifically, but then what I'm trying to look for is like extracting some, I don't know, general ideas and lessons really about, I mean, we're all making decisions all the time, right? Of what we're doing with our time and our resources and whatever.
I tweeted this morning. I don't know if you saw, I tweeted this morning. I feel like I'm constantly having to come up with solutions, like as an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that. And it's funny because I've really had to embrace the mentality of like, what's the alternative? Like I've had to do that because especially opening this new store and like specific, like real life, like the last 2 months straight up, because this is really when my location's about to open. I'm really hiring a ton of people and it's it's costing a lot of money, like real money that like there's no venture or trust fund behind. And I've really like been forced in the mentality of like, okay, what's the alternative? I have to find a solution to making payroll this week or paying the last payment on that invoice or whatever that may be. Or you can't go to the alternative. The alternative is you go out of business. And so it's been funny, like now that I've really kind of accepted that mentality, and not by choice, not because like, not necessarily because I'm like, have this vision of it. I've just like had to, like over the last 2 months, it's been crazy. And but now that I've accepted this mentality of, all right, I can either deal with this or I cannot, and whatever's going to happen is going to happen. My employees don't get paid, the business goes out of business, whatever, XYZ, the catering event doesn't get done. Now that I've accepted it, it's gotten honestly like a little bit simpler. I mean, it's still stressful, but it has gotten simpler to be like, all right, we need, rather than just sit around, like a good example is we planned a few weeks ago. We're like, man, either we need to get a loan, raise some funding, or like we're not, by our projections, we're not going to get there in time for one big payment on this new store. And I'm like, like, all right, what are we going to do? And so you go to the board and you have decisions to make. And like for us, one thing I decided to do was triple down on our catering, marketing, and getting in leads. And that kind of gives us a frontage, because if we book a lot of events, we take a lot of deposits for the summer, and that might have pushed us over, give us that little bit of extra liquid to do it. And it did. And I mean, I think I got to that place. I got to that solution by just accepting the fact that, you have to come up with a solution, and you might as well try. Instead of, I can either just sit there and pout that I'm not going to have enough money for my new store, or I can start calling every lead we have. I can start really digging into some more Facebook ads. I can, go visit every wedding venue in Utah and drop them off samples of our catering. And so I I think staying on the offense is super important. That's been kind of my solution to making these big decisions, or having to make these big decisions. I've been saying it a lot too, is it's so important to stay on the offense, I feel like, because I mean, what else are you going to do? Like I'm talking in literal terms of what I'm dealing with is like big bills coming my way. And instead of like just like trying to pay them all, where you sometimes you literally can't, you have to go on the offense. You have to go on the offense. Like, all right, I know I'm not gonna have enough money for this. I better go on the offense. How are we gonna have a big sale day to day at the shop? How can I book 10 more catering events this week? You know, how can I do whatever? So I think just kind of the mentality for me of accepting it has been the first step, and then second is staying on the offense. Like, just knowing that the solution is always going to be in trying to find the solution rather than just like figuring out, staying on the defense. So
How
yeah.
prone are you temperamentally to second guess decisions after the fact? So like, I mean, like there are people that are just tormented by decision making in general, like and I feel for it. I think it's temperamental, right? Like some of us are made that way. Some of us can make a decision to move, and others really struggle over a crossroad.
Mm-hmm.
I just temperamentally, do you feel like do you struggle much with like second guessing after the fact, or?
Not really. I'm more in the mindset of I'd rather just make a decision and then move on. And then like, even if it was wrong, at least I saved the time of thinking about it. If that makes sense?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I'm more in the mood of just go, 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 go. And like, I do that with my company and my employees too. Like I want, like, I seem like a big micromanager. Like everyone else, you work so much, you're always the one out doing catering or making dough. Like I'm not a micromanager. Like I like things to be done my way, but I want my employees to do nothing more than come up with a solution themselves and implement it, and then let me know later, and then I'll try to fix it later. My job was to first put their mind or skill set in the right place for them to make that first solution. So I micromanage. So I do micromanage right off the bat. So like my marketing manager is a good example. She's a huge asset to my company now and really sets us apart. For the first year that she worked for us, I was with her 24/7, like teaching her everything, all the values that I wanted from everything from how to write an Instagram caption to how to interact with the customer to anything in between. And now, like you'd be amazed that like of the freedom that she has, in the company to do whatever she wants. Another good example is my catering manager. We do tons. In the summer, we're going to do 15, 20 events in a week this summer. I have a 20-year-old catering manager driving a 16-foot enclosed trailer with almost, a diesel sized truck. People always think I'm crazy. I'm like, I've trained, like I put her in that place. I trust her. Like, yeah, I was with her for the first 30 events, sitting in the passenger seat while she drove, telling her everything I wanted. But I can't remember where I started, but for me, it's just about quick decisions. I mean, I'm putting them in the right place. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to try to tie together a couple things that you said, because earlier on you were like sitting around somewhere like a soda shop or something early on in the idea. Maybe it was even around shaved ice. I don't remember exactly where, but you were like, you said like that the kind of destination brand, like there's a place to be.
Yeah.
That really stood out to me. And I wanted to ask you because it looks like, and I don't know, but the first location it's a mostly drive-through business, right? But it's a place to be, like, and I guess like there's a question there about just like how, I don't know, the work of setting that table and like what it is that you intend to do there. But I actually think it overlaps with what you're saying about your people that you manage, because it speaks to the idea of culture, I think. And like, you're like, yeah, I work really hard at the front end to help us get on the same page in terms of language, ethos, values, voice. But then I don't know, you've been, what's the word? Assimilated into the culture here, and now are ambassador of that brand and culture or whatever. Yeah. But like, I don't know, just connecting those, like talk to me a little bit about setting the table.
It's our full secret. It's, for me, I tell my employee, one of the most powerful things I think I tell my team, because it's true, I like believe it 100%. I like to tell them that unlike other companies, we don't think the customer is always right. That's like the cliche line, the customer is always right. I tell them every team meeting, like, the customer is not always right. You guys are always right. You guys are the number one priority, me speaking to my team, because the way to have an amazing customer experience, I've found, no question, is to have a happy team. Like, that they like where they work, they like their coworkers, they feel comfortable. They also, that they're bought into the vision and the brand. And so a couple things that I do to do that. First off, like, you can't get around paying your employees minimum wage and expecting them to buy into you and be, you know, the full experience that you want. I mean, even a small or business, like in a fast food type industry like mine, I don't pay minimum wage. So we start, 40% over minimum wage. So that's right off the bat. Second is we communicate with our employees a lot. So, like, I pay for a lot of things. By the way, this is how I invest in my company, because the labor in my company is so high. Like, people think it's hilarious. I have a marketing team. Like, I'm a small business. I like people don't see a drinks and treats shop with a couple locations have a marketing team usually.
Mm-hmm.
And so first off, I invest in enough people, and I invest in them with, like, number of employees wise, but also and how much I pay them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I communicate with them. And so I keep investing. I'll have team meetings. We have team meetings a lot. I'll have manager meetings a lot. I have my managers meet with their team a lot. So communication's huge. And communication leads to them liking their job more. We hear feedback, we make adjustments, we can really tailor things better. And then from there, then I can ask my employees to do whatever. Like, I can get them excited. I can get them bought in because they're all happy. They all like where they work. I can be like, hey, we're rolling out the app. It's going to, here's all the things that have to be done on it. Here's all the logistics behind it. Here's how I want you to smile to the customers. Here's the experience that you need to provide. And they're happy to do it because they like where they work. They know their management cares. It's not just like a kind of place where, the boss throws an order and you never see him again. Like, for as much as our managers and myself, I take orders every day, and it's not because I'm on the schedule, like, accounted for, to be taking orders. But if nothing else, I just like to work hand in hand with my team a lot, so they know that, like, I'm in the trenches. I see what they see. I care about them, and so we're really about the team. And I think, like, I'm tripling down on it. I just had my managers of our downtown store, our managers and our assistant managers, and me put every employee that we have on a cycle of a calendar for someone else, another manager, to text them about something they're doing good every day. Like, because I feel like our team is just growing so big. One of the top things on my mind is I don't want someone to feel like they're not being appreciated enough, and then thus them not liking their job as much, thus that leading to the customer experience. I mean,
so good.
Yeah. And so, I mean, like, I think these little things really matter. I'm going into, I think a fun thing for us to talk, I can tell you about, and we can spend some time in this. I'm going into a huge soda war with my competitors right now. My new location is opening next to the biggest brand in the industry, is less than half a mile away. They just announced they're opening a location less than half a mile away. A mile down from that is probably the other biggest brand in the industry. I'm talking 40 plus locations from each of them. I have 2. I think that these little things is why I'm going to win. I'm really, like, I'm trying the hardest, but I'm trying with intent. I feel like I'm very thoughtfully. So things like caring about my employees. I mean, think about it. I'm in literal terms. I'm opening a new store within a mile of the 2 biggest brands in my industry, right? Little things like that means all the local high school and college kids are going to be working at our stores. Little things like me caring about my employees more is down the road going to lead to me having more sales. Why? Well, first off, my employees are going to like working at my store the best. Therefore, they're going to provide a better customer experience. That is eventually going to lead to better sales. Another reason is, so many reasons. They like where they work. They invite their friends hang out there. It's something to talk about at the dinner table, how they like it, then their parents like it and their parents are supportive of it. It's just like little things like that are so important, I think. And so.
Well, man, it's so good. It sounds like you're, doing a really good job caring for your people, man. And I'm curious, like, oh God, I lost that train of thought. Hold on. I'm curious about the, you said that they're bought into the vision. Yeah. Can you talk to me a little bit about that? Because like, it isn't obvious, right? Like they go, okay, we sell drinks and treats. Like unto like to what end? Why? Right? Like the Simon Sinek start with why. Like
Yeah.
behind that,
Yeah.
what? Talk to me about the vision, the purpose, the deeper intent.
Yeah, I mean, I'm most a fan when I'm most a fan of business when value is given substantially on both ends, to the customer and to the business. I feel like um, we have a model where we can genuinely bring value to our customers. I tell our employees a lot is like, let's be empathetic to our customers. Like they could buy our products cheaper from somewhere else. They could get them faster from somewhere else. Like they're giving us a job, but they're keeping us in business. They're still coming to us. They like our brand enough. Let's give them an experience that's good enough in return. It's quality and quality. It's value and value. And so I just think that makes a lot of sense. And so that's what I tell my employees is like, look, let's be empathetic to the customer. You know, they're keeping us in business. They're giving us the opportunity to even do what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's one of the main reasons. The other way I get my employees to act so positive and enthusiastic is I tell them every team meeting, positivity is infectious. It starts from the top down. And so I'm super, super positive. Like no one talks to a customer the way I talk to them. Like I'm super grateful, and it's not fake. I'm super grateful for them coming to my business, and I love my business. I'm super excited to see it succeed. And I also know that I have a good product that can help them. So it's value on both ends, right? And it starts from the top down. If I'm like that, cool. My manager sees that and she's like, all right, that's the way we need to be. And she does it, and her employees see it. It's literally gotten to the point where like a couple of my employees that like I've known better, they're like, wait, how did you make everyone at the window like have this like shriekingly high tone, hi, welcome to Thirst, like just so enthusiastic. She's like, this one girl I'm talking about, she's like, I don't even know why I do it. Like everyone just does it. It's just a thing. And I'm like, man, like positivity is really infectious. It's one of those things you surround yourself with people and you become that person or whatever.
That's how culture works, man.
Yeah. And I think it specifically starts from the top down, you know? So I tell my managers all the time, like, if there's something going on in the shop and like you're super stressed, like you can't share it. You cannot share it. I do share my stress with my employees, so I can't say that, but I really try to minimize it as much as I can because I want to be all positive for them. Because I know it's infectious. I know I do this all the time is one of my weaknesses. If I'm stressed and I want the line to move faster or something like that, I'll come into the kitchen, and if I'm stressed, everyone can feel it. You know, it changes everything. Changes the way people talk to customers, changes everything. And so I'm very, very conscious of that. And I still do it. Sometimes I still mess up on it, but I think that's really the way I've gotten people to buy in, is just putting it out there, and it's just been infectious.
Well, that's so good, man. I mean, because creating a good culture takes real leadership, and it necessitates being strategic. So even making those kind of like, I'm paying attention to this. I'm intentional about this. And I just think, man, it just sounds like you're doing a phenomenal job creating that culture. And so you mentioned before, like, well, they can, and I think you've answered this, but I don't know if there's more to say on it. So like, you're like, you could buy this cheaper or get it quicker or something like that. Yeah. So like there's another value proposition. There's another reason I'm like, this is the place to be. And is it that culture? Is it more than that? Like for some reason, like Cheers comes to mind, you know, like a place where everyone knows your name or something like that. Like, it's like that. Who doesn't want to be there?
Yeah. I mean, I've actually, like, I use this in my marketing. Like I literally tell my customers this. I'm like, hey, dirty little secret. You could probably get 60% of the drinks on our menu at 7-Eleven or Maverick for cheaper or faster. You won't have to wait in line. But there's a reason that everyone's still coming back, and it's called the brand experience, you know, and I think that's an array of things. I think it's number one, the smile at the window. It's, you know, it's feeling like the business wants you to be there. That's a huge thing. You know, It seems obvious, but like it's huge. But it can be anything. It can be the free popcorn that we offer you. It can be the fact that you tag us with your stuff on Instagram and we actually reply, or we repost, or your thing or whatever. Or you know, we'll go out of our way to, you know, come up with new products, do certain promotions, you know, bring more value to our audience, show them that we're grateful for their business. And Yeah, so it's an experience. I mean, it's an array of things. It's treating the customer. I mean, it's honestly, it's providing a good product. It's providing a good experience. That's what the brand is, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's what they pay for, and people like that, you know? And so, like, going back to what I was saying before, value on both ends is the most powerful thing. And so, yeah, they might pay a little more. They might wait in line a little bit longer. And we're not trying to hide that, you know,
Yeah.
because there is other value that we can bring them, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so, and it's called the brand experience.
Yep.
So,
Go back. So you said like at the very beginning, and you were telling, kind of setting up your introduction. You're like, yeah, I was, I don't know that I was like, would have been the kid that you tagged and said that the kid's super entrepreneurial, but I was always a hard worker, whether in little league or whatever, or all these early iterations of the lawn biz or whatever it was I put my hand to.
yeah.
Where do you think that came from? Like, talk to me about, I don't know. Here's a way to, I ask this question of a lot of people, like, what is your earliest memory of what you would call work? So like, think as far back as you can. It doesn't need to be a job or whatever. Just go like, work took on meaning in my mind in this way at this
Yeah.
point in my life.
I mean, it's for me, it's always been an example. Uh, I didn't grow up in a rich family, but I grew up in probably just a middle class family,
Mm-hmm.
maybe a little even higher. But there was no excuses, I feel like, for my dad and my mom. Like, I'm just thinking in terms of my dad because he went to work. Obviously, moms work the most, right? But because she was a stay-at-home mom and she did
Mm-hmm.
everything. But I just remember my dad always going to work no matter what, you know, and kind of almost like making fun of the people that like make excuses for not going to work or like are taking like way too much time off and just being lazy. Like it's just what you do. And I started learning that like it just to me up until even a few years ago, like that was just what you did. Like there was nothing else. There was no lazy, you know, that just wasn't an option. You know, you want something, you work for it, and you know, and to keep this amazing life that we had, like to me growing up, this perspective I had, to keep the amazing life that we have, you know, privileged life that we have, you know, we have to keep working, you know. And so I watched my dad do that 24/7, and even over it was probably over even the last few years that like I didn't even think twice about it. I didn't even realize that like other people weren't as much. And yeah, I mean, I've learned over the last couple of years is like it goes back to me kind of to what's the alternative, you know, like if you need something done and you're you know put in the position of either I can get this done, I can come up with a solution, or I'm not, and whatever happens is going to happen. A lot of times it's bad. You just got to go for it, and you got to put it in the work. And so I just never known anything that much different, honestly.
What did dad do?
I mean, I mean, he was just a consistent worker, and something that I'll share this. Really, what it ingrained me in it was 3 years ago. I would always watch my dad work consistently, like I was saying, and I just kind of followed in his steps. And 3 years ago was about a year into when Thirst was opened. And let me tell you, the first year of when Thirst opened was not profitable. I worked every shift. No one came. Like seriously, for the first, people think it's funny because we're so busy now. We really popped off after about a couple years, and I really started. And what I'm about to tell you, I think is kind of why for the first year, I worked every shift. We were losing a ton of money. I accumulated a lot of debt, and I was like, man, this is bad. And kind of in parallel, my mom got a little bit sick. So my mom is fighting. Well, she got a brain tumor about 3 years ago. This is about a year into when I opened Thirst, and it. So she had her surgery, and she was like not looking really good. One of the main ways that I kind of learned work ethic, I think, consistent work ethic, because what's the alternative, is kind of watching my dad through that situation was like, he never wearied or like went off his consistent work path. You know, he was staying very true to it. He's like, I think I even had a conversation with him about it. It was like, what are we supposed to do? Like now we have medical bills, you know, like the last thing that we can do right now is waiver, you know, we have to stay strong. And so, I really, that was one of the turning points where I was like, okay, something really bad's happened. And, you know, there is no alternative. You have to keep putting in the work. You can't just sit down and cry about it, you know? And so that's when I was like, okay, like this is how you solve problems is you get back to work, you work on solutions. You don't just sit around and cry about it. And so really that was a huge turning point in my business too. And so I kind of shifted my perspective a little bit. I was like, all right, how can I go on the offense? First year, I mean, we did marketing, but really I understood it and worked hard on it over the last 3.5 years. And that was kind of a turning point in my business. I'm like, I can go on the offense. I can put in more work to come up with a solution. And yeah, that's kind of how I learned it, I think, from realizing there's no alternative. You know, you just got to fix things. You got to put in the work. So,
Man, thank you for sharing that. And
yeah,
how is mom doing well now? Still,
she's doing well. She's still fighting. She's good.
thank God.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What so okay. Couple things you said, and I don't know, I mean, because we've just connected, like you know, I'm not going to assume you know much about me or what we do here or whatever, but like it's funny you said, like, you know, if you want something, you got to put in the work, right? Well, if you took my own story back far enough, well, once upon a time I sat down and talked to a homeless guy, right? This is this was a huge turning point in my life. So in Florida, there's a ton of, like, there's a high number of homeless people, like California, because you can survive all year long. Like, if they're in your town, like you're in an emergency shelter or whatever, like you'll die, right? But people will come to a place like Florida. Well, I sat down and met this guy. I went out with like a local church. They were sharing a dinner. Yep. I went out with a local church. They were sharing a dinner or something. And I was like, yeah, I want to go to that. And, you know, I went down this, they took me out on a road team. I went out this dark alley and I sat down and handed this guy like a plate of food and a blanket. It was like Florida cold, you know? Mm-hmm. And super awkward. Hadn't done this before. I was like, I don't know what to do here. But I just sat down and like listened to his story and just said, like, we had a conversation like we're having now. And it left a major impression on me because I was like, this dude is beautiful. He's got a deep story, like real beauty, real pain. Like, I relate to him in so many ways. Like, he's a human being, right? Mm-hmm. And I went home that night and I had a bed and a blanket and food in the refrigerator and a roof over my head. And I had this moment where I was like, I don't really want to live in a world that works like this. I don't want to live in a place where, like, this beautiful brother sleeping in an alley that reeks of urine, hoping someone might come by with some food. And I just, it began to like haunt me. Right. Mm-hmm. And so my story, like, before anything with business really business is new to us, to me, whatever. Like, we weren't doing anything with money, but I started making up excuses to hang out with folks on the streets and talk other people into it. So I would tell you, like, you need these relationships. Like, there's so much wisdom and insight and things that you don't have access to without making up some kind of excuse to listen to each other, to talk to each other. And so we started, you know, obvious things, community dinners, this and that. So we start connecting people together and seeing like what good can come of that. And we're a nonprofit, right? And we open up like a daytime drop-in center, a place for people to be during the day to get out of the sun, come get a shower, free market groceries, all these different things that we had, kind of the obvious things that you would imagine kind of being there. But I had this real strong conviction about like work. Like, I was like, man, not working is deadly. Like, it's as deadly as like not eating in my mind. Like, it just takes a little longer, you know? And I was like, but these guys that don't have jobs or employment or even like prospect of it, I'm like, you know, I'm not gonna be able to connect folks with jobs, but like maybe, so like some little projects we do, like I was like, oh, well, people don't have work and they don't have food, so let's work together to grow some food. So we started community gardens. Mm-hmm. And people were struggling with transportation issues. And we were like, well, actually one of our volunteers rode bikes, and we're like, well, we could collect broken bikes and work together to rebuild them. And then you could solve your own transportation need. But what I was looking to create and find was like meaningful and shared work. And I started realizing how good that was for relationship building. Like you probably have with your own team, like nothing unites us like shoulder to shoulder work, like meaningful work. Like, that's good. Like, I'd rather to me, I'm like, the image of shoulder to shoulder is better than eye to eye. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, that's how it's formed. And so we started doing that. Well, there's a long story there, but eventually we actually started, well, let me tell you a little story. So one of the guys that built a bike, threw a trailer on the back of it, and then he put a lawnmower in it, and he started a lawn business. And he did quite well. He ended up having, I want to say he had like 36 contracts. He lived
That's
on the
money too.
streets.
That's like money.
Oh yeah, he was doing well. So he ended up getting an apartment.
Yeah.
And then he cleaned up a little bit. And then he got a job at a local supermarket, like full-time job. And he came to us and he was like, hey, I got this full-time job. I'm kind of clawing my way out of my situation. But I've got like these contracts and y'all want them? You should like take them over.
Okay.
And so that was our first venture into like, let's say social enterprise, like running a business really as a way to serve this community we're working with. I'm like, man, we have this asset. We have a pickup truck. Like it's low hanging fruit. Like it was, he's like, yeah, we could start that business fairly easily. Well, he had already started it. And so we jumped into it. One of the things I realized pretty quick though, because I started riding around with the guys doing lawns, I started realizing like I've got old broken men and I'm watching these ninjas pull up across the street, like pour out of a trailer and move on. And I'm like, oh, we'll never make it.
They do a lawn in 10 minutes.
Dude, it was insane. It was insane. And I'm like, so we'd be all day on some job. And I'm like, I want to work with these guys. I'm trying to build something in them. And I was like, oh, this is great. We ran that for a few years, but I kept looking, going, you know what? I've got it. Cause with the nonprofit, we raise money, charitable money to like food to the hungry, that kind of stuff. I was like, man, but there's so much more need. They need jobs. They need, on-ramps to access to the rest of the city. And this bike project we had been doing, we called it the recycle bin, but we started watching it going, bro, the guy that had the bike can get to meet his own basic needs and put in the work to pedal his ass wherever he needs to go to do whatever he needs to do. Oh, and then interestingly enough, I was like, I bet we could sell some of these. So we started like, let's try to refurbish a couple of these and sell them. And so that's actually like the origin story, how I ended up getting into like running a business at all. We so the Well was the name of the nonprofit. So we called this Well Built Bikes. Yeah. And we went and got which is like the cheapest retail space I could find in all of Tampa so it's in a mall and malls are like a thing of the past. Like they're sinking ships, which means they have a lot of empty storefronts. And so I was like, hey, it'd probably be good for you guys to have something going on in here, right? And so I was able to get in like cheaper than I could have got a storage unit to do it in. But it was retail space and it had traffic. And so, but when you were so one is just kind of like, as a way of like introducing myself to you a little bit more, but then also, so we did some pop-up shops and we sold some bikes and we're like, oh, people buy bikes from us. And then we can use that to fund. We've kind of converted it into like an earn a bike program now. So folks that are on the streets can get a bike through investing community service hours, kind of like a time banking or something. Yeah. Well, I took like all of the money that we could get access to. Like we had fundraised enough and we had to close the drop-in center because of the neighborhood gentrified and they don't want poor people here. And so we had to close that down for a season. And so but we still had the money that we were using to pay the rent. I let it accumulate for about a year. And I was like, okay, that's our startup capital to give this a shot. And we went all in on Well Built Bikes, start this bike shop. Yeah. Paint it out, build all these bikes, open the door count 0. Well, no, it actually wasn't true because you have mall walkers. So the door count was still up because people just like, what's this? Yeah.
But not buying.
Sales 0, sales 0, sales 0. And then it's what a horrible experience that is. Like that first, you're talking about that first year, like this is horrible. And it sounds like you had a much more expensive operation to kind of get that up and running. Anyway, all that just to say, like, man, I wanted to kind of set up my own context and like how I relate to that a little bit. But I'm curious. So we've been
get the ball rolling on sales then.
That's a really good question. I honestly can't say that I know. So it's really weird. Like because there's a story in the Old Testament about the Hebrews wandering in the desert. And there was like this manna, this like stuff just appeared every day, but they couldn't save it for tomorrow. Weirdly, that story resonates deeply where I was like, how do we pay the bills this month? Yeah. It just like happened. Like, and it was really weird. So like early on, it was like we sold nothing, but someone donated like the nicest bike we got our hands on like ever. And we sold we did like $1,000 sale. I was like, okay, well that I can get a big chunk of the rent pay. It's just like, but it was, and it's like my buddy Chris and I were really the ones, there was a couple of us, but we had like because of us coming out of like the work we had done, we were so used to like we weren't taking money. Like we're like, we're in this for another reason altogether, and nothing we've ever done made money. So like, that's normal, right? Like, it's like, yeah, we're providing a service and we don't make money, but, and I would say it has to do with, and maybe not strategic or marketing or branding, but like reputation, like as in we're trying really hard to be good neighbors in our city and like impact a problem that all of us feel here in the city.
Yeah.
And like word got out. I mean, the only way word got out really was like some news stories, like some earned media locally was really helpful. Like, oh, there's this Earn a Bike program, and that led to some donations, which led to some sales. But it's this slow snowball. Like, I can't even point at something and be like, oh man, here's the thing, which I hate, because I'm like, I got to unpack that. Cause I'm like, I don't know what the lesson there is other than faithfulness and keep trying and working.
And that
right.
the lesson too for me is like, there wasn't a thing, you know.
Right.
There isn't, to your point, there isn't a thing. I mean, it takes time. Like, time is like, I mean, I think the best for us, you'll see every marketing strategy coming out of us, every ad platform, every strategy. We think we're on the top of it, but like, nothing does better than actually trying really hard. Like you're saying, providing a good experience, like, because then that person tells the next person, who tells the next person. It's the slowest way, but it's the most powerful, I think. You know, it's the slowest way. Like, if you just opened a business, obviously people aren't going to flood into the doors, but maybe one will if you give them an amazing experience that leads to two. And if that's the only average, and I think businesses do this, like, if you don't ever do any marketing or advertising, that is the way you grow. You know, you have to grow that way. I just think it takes a long time, and a lot of the times financially you can't sustain it for that long. You know, mine wouldn't have been able to. And so you got to speed it up with
I'm curious. I wanted to ask you this. Like, I know you're like in broad brushstrokes familiar with what we're doing now. But one of the challenges that I would say, and I was just curious about your take on this. So I've been watching you and paying attention to stuff you guys are doing, and particularly around like some of your marketing initiative. Like, you're using text, and you're using an app, and you're in all of the social spaces. And, but I'm curious, like, one of the things, I guess, in a challenge for a bike shop like ours is like it's a several $100, or it's let's say at bottom, it's $100 sale, right? Like, it's because just kind of like it's a refurbish, rebuild, but like it's the gap in the market that we really address is kind of like we will say like affordable, reliable transportation, right? So you've got affordable. People will say, well, you got like a Walmart, but they're not reliable, right? It's like a toy that looks like a bike kind of deal. And then you got like pawn shops where it's as is, and some dude down the street could be like, yo, that's my bike or whatever. But then you want a good, reliable bike, and the new bike shops, there's often a comma on the price tag, and it's super preventative. And so in the middle of that, we're like, man, we could probably refurbish good old bikes to make them available. So that's kind of a niche, and there wasn't anyone really serving in that. But still, like, to do a sale would be, it's $100. Let's just say, like, at a base, and then up.
Because you sell a complete bike, right?
Yeah. It's completely rebuilt, guaranteed, certified technician did it. And so a question I had, I guess, for you is like, when I think about that and I look at like what you guys are doing, there is a bit of like, one, unfamiliarity, but then probably, let's just say something like a jealousy around the price point of product, right? Like, and I've really wrestled with this for us, and I'm just curious if you have immediate thoughts, because I'm like, oh, having a $1, $2 conversion would be a much easier sell, let's say, right? I don't know. I'd just love to hear your thoughts on that.
No, yeah, totally. So the thing is, I sell $1,000 catering events through my advertising and marketing, and I sold a $5,000 wedding last week.
That's awesome.
So it's funny because it's a different marketing strategy entirely. I don't buy Google AdWords on Soda Shop near me. I don't buy that AdWord because, to your point, it's such a low retail cost that I'll buy that click for $3. They'll come in, spend $5 after labor and cost of goods. I didn't make any money. You know, and I get that long term they could be a customer and come back and back and back. Sure. You know, but immediately that's hard for a small business. I would definitely attack it differently. So I do attack it differently. The way I attack getting people to our store at 1300 South, our brick and mortar store, is our main strategy across the board is do brand marketing. So we put out a ton of content all over Instagram, Facebook, every single platform across the board. And we just put out content on there that we think brings value. That can obviously get people to our store, building our brand all over the internet. We use influencers, we use ads. But the way I would sell a higher product item is what I found is I like to focus my marketing efforts and ad spend on getting the lead in. And then I have a different kind of sales tactic to kind of finish the job. So Facebook ads, Google ads, influencer marketing, all these tactics to get me the lead. And then I have my catering manager or myself go in and close the sale for a $1,000 wedding, $500 corporate event or something like that. And so the way I would do it is Facebook ads, I think, work better than anything else in our company.
Really?
Yeah, 100%. And more tactics is Facebook lead forms work the best. They're within Facebook and Instagram. You don't have to leave the platform. If everyone listening can think about the last time they clicked learn more, call to action banner or swipe up. If you notice, the Safari doesn't exit and go to a new Safari. It's like a jacked up version that's in Facebook or Instagram. It's slow. It doesn't convert well. You're not trying to make yours is a custom thing. I'd sell custom weddings where every detail is, the price changing.
Have to meet and talk through it. And
you can't buy it. You can't just go check out on your website or my website. That doesn't work for our model. And so what we do is try to get that lead and then a separate strategy to convert the sale. So Facebook ads within the platform, Facebook, Instagram lead forms, based on targeting, and then creative that's contextual for that target. So for instance, when I'm trying to sell a corporate event versus when I'm trying to sell a wedding event. If it's a wedding event, I know that I'm targeting newly engaged brides, people interested in weddings, people in the industry. I'm going to make content specifically for that target. Hey, new brides. Hey, Utah brides. Hey, Salt Lake City brides. Hey, wedding planners. Whatever I'm targeting, that's me physically saying it because I'm in the video, or that's the caption of my ad. It's contextual to that targeting. And the same as with corporate, the same as with birthday parties, the same as with whoever I'm targeting. And then I give them a little bit of info and then I let them inquire. So I try to bring them value, So,
and then the forms is basically, they just go like in without leaving that, they can go, here's my information. Hit me up. We'll talk.
Yeah. Facebook and Instagram are sweet because they already have your phone number, name, and pretty much your birth, like whatever you need.
Know it all. Yeah. You just say, connect us.
Basically just hit inquire. It'll have your stuff pre-formed filled out and it'll say click send, and boom, I got that lead. And then we follow up with them. And then, obviously each company has its own strategy to convert its sale,
Sure.
Hey, this bike is going to be perfect for you because of X, Y, Z. But Facebook ads with creative that's contextual to the targeting is crush for us. Really crush, like at a very low conversion cost. My Facebook ads right now, like I found the best one I ever have for spring weddings. I'm like, I think I'm like less than $2 a lead that's converting. So like super, super good.
Wow.
Yeah. And lots, like 5-10 a day.
Really?
Yeah. So you could crush with that. The other thing that works, I think, faster than anything to get people to your door is influencer marketing, no question. And it works for everything. Like it really does work for everything, like even in a specific niche, because, to your point, you're selling a higher ticket item. So if you were to pay someone that you decided was the closest, their followers had the closest following to your target audience, you were to pay them, $1,000 to tell their, 100,000 followers about your thing, and you only converted 2 people of 100,000, it's worth it, right? It's almost worth it, depending on how big the sale was.
Sure.
Right. But and that's a very small percentage. So influencer marketing has crushed for us. The price is going up and people are like, oh my gosh, like, $1,000 to post. Man, like it's price is going up because it's working. It's working really good. If I want to sell something at my store, one of the biggest ways I can do it right now, if I want to sell a catering event or if I want to tell people about my app, it's having the influencers do it for you.
So for somebody listening that's hearing all of this, and I mean, including me, I guess, like, talk to me, because at the beginning of the story, you're like, I didn't have outside funding. I wasn't sitting on money, right? You go back to day one, and you got to like make decisions to deploy dollars around these things, right? And you kind of are continually doing that along the way because you have operational cost bills coming in. You're still struggling to cover whatever the bills are, and yet at the same time going, and I'm investing heavily in these. I mean, that's what's generating revenue. So there's like a cost benefit analysis there. But like for someone listening in those early days, right? Like you're like, nobody was coming in the door. I had to like double down on marketing. But I don't have a bunch of capital. Like you did say at one point, I accumulated some debt. So I was curious, like what, like, I mean, you were able to do some things just on a personal
Financially, how it all worked out. Yeah.
Yeah. Like just what does it look like dollar to dollar from like in the first couple months for someone? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a real question. I think people are scared to ask that question, but it's the number one question, I think, on people that are thinking about starting businesses' mind. You know, it's just very true. How it worked for me, totally honestly, is the first 2 years, probably year and a half, wasn't profitable. Was going on all just I had to work every shift in order to be able to cover the labor, and I was accumulating a little bit of operational debt too. You know, debt to our main distributors, big vendors that we were paying for. So it's not necessarily a loan from the bank, but
you had terms. You had terms.
Yeah, like terms. Yeah. So like it was within reason, but you know, $50,000, you know, for something like that. Then really started to get to work. Found some. I mean, there was no thing, to your point. I mean, it was just kind of slowly started working on marketing more and more, and started to turn the ball around a little bit. Got a location in the Jazz Arena, was able to talk my way into doing that. That made me a lot of money. Each event I was making a lot of money up there. Then turned to catering. I was like, all right, because a lot of the thing is like my freestanding stores, the brick and mortar stores, they're a great way to have presence as a brand, but it's not the way you're going to take home $1 million is by the store. There's so much overhead, you know, it's so much property and labor that it takes to run the store. What I'm trying to go is deeper rather than wider. You know, instead of opening 1 million brick and mortar stores and owning all that overhead, maybe I can do catering, you know, that goes out of my one store. So that increases the revenue. You know, how can I increase the revenue without increasing the overhead? It's a really good model, right?
Sure.
You know, because sales go up and costs don't follow. So it's awesome. So catering has been one of the main ways I've done that. Other ways is there's other simple things too. Can you sell merchandise? Can you sell take and bake products? Have been good for us. We sell cinnamon rolls. We've jumped into take and bakes. That's helped us a lot. You know, how can you go deeper rather than wider? And so that's kind of the way I started pulling myself out of a little hole a little bit, and then really diving down into putting out content, investing a lot of my time, a lot of my hours into finding and connecting with influencers and trying to bring them value, seeing if they'll come out to my store. But really like just grinding it from the floor up. Like I flyered every single, this is funny, like before we would open, this is a couple years, this is like 3 or 4 years ago, I would literally flyer every single car at the Costco or the Walmart or Target right before we would open. Then I would go open the store and see how many those people would come, like flyers, like everything, you know, like, and we still use those tactics, like guerrilla tactics like that are still super important. One thing I'm excited to tell people about that's working really good to get customers into our door is Instagram direct message strategy. So I don't know if you've ever heard anything like this, but my marketing team, if you've ever posted in Salt Lake City, there's a very good chance you've been personally DM'd by Thirst, because we're finding anyone and everyone who has an account or is posting around our stores, and we're inviting them into our store for a free drink. That's now awesome. That drink, so the message will look something like this, and it's literally every single one is typed out by hand. This is not like a bot or some like copy paste exact message that's going on each one. There's like a part of the body that we'll copy and paste,
and then
we're going to customize the name, or if like, but we're really trying to go deep. Like we'll be like, hey, so-and-so, saw you live in Salt Lake City. See you also have a dog too. Looks like you love your dog. We have free dog treats if you come by the store. And I'd also love to offer you a free 24-ounce drink. And you don't have to buy anything at all. Just let me know how your experience was. Now, that free dog treat and that drink cost me 60 cents, 80 cents, even if it cost me $1 out the door. There's very, very unlikely that they come to the store and don't buy a cookie or some soft pretzels or cinnamon roll to go with it. It's also very unlikely that they didn't like their drink and their treat a lot and they're not going to come back a second time. Yep. It's also very unlikely that they didn't follow us on Instagram. It's also very unlikely that they didn't put it on their story when they came. Like, there's so many good things about it. And then the best thing about it is it didn't cost us anything to message them. We just literally used the search function. We found them and then we DM'd them. And so literally my marketing team is really good. It's mostly my marketing manager, but pretty much probably 500 to 1,000 DMs a week that we're sending. And like, we're busy now, but we're keeping it up because it's cheap. I mean, it's free. It's customer acquisition.
So good. Yeah, it's so good.
And so people are like, I mean, it's one of those tactics that's right in front of your face. Yeah. It's like, how did I pull out of losing money? I stayed up until I couldn't anymore, typing with my two thumbs in bed on people on Instagram. Like, that was one of the main strategies. That's one of the main strategies we get new customers. It still is. And so we're just doing it more now.
God, I love that. Now on a day-to-day, let's say downstairs from where you are right now, like how many people say someone at the register, and they go like at the end of the day, like how just on a reflective response, like how many of those did you see today? Or like, cause that also identifies someone.
Yeah.
Cause they're walking in and saying, hey, I got this. So give me they're like self-identifying, like, hey, I'm new, treat me wonderful, whatever. But like, what kind of, how often is that happening?
So we're trying to be better about tracking specifically within a source, but about 75% of our new business right now is coming from Instagram. And it's hard to grab that within Instagram where it was. Mm-hmm. It's been hard for us to translate that to the team, to get that out of the person. A lot of the time there's like they don't know enough about Instagram to really know what an influencer is or what a direct, sure. Old. Like, and so
they're just saying, I heard about you on Instagram.
About 75% of our new business comes from Instagram. Now, whether that was an influencer, whether it was an ad, whether it was just an organic piece of content from us, it's hard to say. But we do know that the direct messages have over a 50% reply rate. Isn't that insane?
Really?
50%, which means our Thirst account is DMing people 24/7. It's 24/7. It's just getting messages. And so it's honestly kind of hard to keep track of. But
I'll bet.
Like 50%. And so I would say, I don't know what the exact number is, so I don't want to bullshit you, but
sure.
But it works. We get a lot of people that, oh yeah, I'm just trying out my free drink. Can I actually get a dozen cookies?
Yeah.
That paid for itself 50 times over.
So good. That's so good, man.
And it's a good strategy too. Like, it's a good strategy, not just for a brick and mortar business. I'm talking about, like, I think that Instagram direct message, it's one of those things that it's honestly about putting in the work. Like, it's one of those strategies that's in your face, that you put more work into this, you will get more out. Like, period. Like, it's one of those things where it's not like an ad. Like, I don't know if this is going to work. Like, you can do this as many times as you want for free. Like, it blocks you after like 50 messages or something, but it resets in like 20, 30 minutes because it doesn't want you to have a bot.
Sure.
You can do it forever for free. So like, people listening, like, I'm a plumber and I'm not getting enough plumbing sales. You could message every business on Instagram, make sure everything's going okay. And 1 out of 200 are going to be like, oh, by the way, yeah, could you come fix this drain we have? That was free customer acquisition costs, or anything in between. Like, I was telling a lot of my buddies who are going out to do like summer sales, pest control, summer like solar alarms, things like that. Really popular here. I'm like, dude, wherever you are, say you're in Austin, Texas, look up Austin, Texas on Instagram, message every single person that's posting in there and be like, hey, I'm in the area today. I'll give you 5% off pest control. Like, you want to be just do that while you're sleeping, like before you go to bed. Like, you will be the best salesman. You're going to be the best salesman, It's like, it's one of those things, like, I think, like we were talking about hard work, like, if you're willing to put in the work, this will work, period. Like, it's one of those strategies. And so I love those strategies. Those are awesome.
That's so good, man. Let's see. You've been using texting also. And so I'm And I know this was part of even that first phone call where I heard you, like this was a bit of the conversation you guys were having around the costs of that for a small business. I was really intrigued even that you are a relatively small business that is utilizing that platform. I know it can be quite expensive. And then I'm just personally curious, like, how's it going? Even around the nuts and bolts of it, like, what are you using? Like, just, yeah, I'm unfamiliar with it other than I'm familiar that you're doing it and the people are doing it.
Yeah.
I've never ventured into that space at all. I'm just curious about it.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to do with our tech strategy is give my customers and my business another form of communication. And so I've rolled something. It's not just to send you promos or deals. That's not my goal, is just to have, a little transactional based thing. I'm trying to do more sales, but I'm doing it by building brand. I think it's the way I'm going to be able to do the most sales. Yeah. Could I send out a daily text about things? Yeah. But most people are going to unsubscribe. It's going to seem spammy.
Yep.
I'm trying to use text to build my brand, which is top of the funnel, which is going to lead to the most amount of sales for me later on. So instead of, I do send out promos and like deals and announcements, things like that. But my main thing that we tell on every single video or on our Instagram bio on Thirst, or every time I'm talking to the Thirsty Nation, as I call them, I tell them to just text us. I leave it completely open-ended, and I do that on purpose. Some people are like, what do you want us to text us about? Literally anything. Like, text us questions about products, say hi, ask us about catering. This is only another way we can communicate. So as far as tactics, yeah, I grab that person's info when they text me, and now we have the ability to communicate with each other. So that's super valuable to me. But it's also just valuable as far as brand awareness. When's the last time you texted Coke or Toyota and they texted you right back? It's a huge brand builder for us. And it's one of those things that's like, you don't calculate an exact ROI on it, but it builds your brand huge. It's one of those things that's one of those little differences that's going to set you apart. I haven't seen a lot of small businesses or businesses at all like offer the ability just to text them about anything, but I really think it's going to be adapted as text kind of gets put into the atmosphere of marketers more and more. I think it's going to be just another way that brands can communicate with your audience, and that's the most important part. I've been hot on it lately. Like, communication is the asset. It's the number. Like, think about it. Like, if you have a great product, it means nothing unless you can communicate to your customers. So if you're wondering why you can't sell things right now, it's because your ability to communicate is not very good. So my ability to communicate as of Thirst is something I'm always working on. It's pretty good. Why? I have a lot of followers on Instagram. I talk to them a lot. I have engaged followers on Instagram. Like, that's a way I can communicate. If that doesn't work for them, great. I have a big email list. We're sending out value. We're connecting with people via email. That doesn't work for them. Every other social media platform we're on. If that doesn't work for them, you don't do any social media or whatever, you don't do email, just text us. No big deal. Just text us. Or if you want to come to my store and have a face-to-face conversation with me, that's like my thing. Like, I think there's the most businessy sales value in just having a conversation with the customer. So whenever I'm taking orders, I'm like just trying to talk to them. And so look at all your communication channels and be like, are these strong? And can I use them to sell my product? Because communication is everything. If you pay an influencer to post about your product, you're just paying for their ability to communicate, right? You're paying for their followers. You're paying for their attention. If you pay for a commercial, you're just paying for its ability to communicate to the people watching. So everything's one big communication game, I've been realizing. And so that's how I sell my products, is I just focus on my communication channels. The more I can strengthen them, the better. And so if you think about it that way, rather than how can I trick this person into selling them my thing, instead of let me build up communication assets. And don't do that by being selly. You don't get someone to follow you or join your text list by selling them something.
Yep.
You do it by bringing them value. And so I'm just trying to communicate with everyone. And so the best way to sell my product is to only focus on that, because then I can say, hey, we're selling this, or we're selling this. And I can do it on all my communication platforms. And since I already built those up, there's already the trust there.
So what's cool is you talk about trust and communication, and this would be true if you and I were like going to be great friends. It would take communication. It's like a relationship is established, right, by good, open, and clear communication and the establishment of trust kind of through that. I'm curious how, so that's a lot of like arenas, right? Where, so let's just take texting, but you could direct messages, replies.
Yeah.
There's my immediate thought. I just wonder about like, yeah, we can communicate back and forth. How's the onslaught of that been? So I could imagine going, oh, there's so many, right? That you could potentially end up getting lost in the communication, going like failing to communicate, right? So even myself, like I bite off more than I can chew in general, like as a person. And then I go, oh, sometimes you drop a ball and it's like, cool, I'm not gonna beat myself up about it. I'm apologize, move on, do what you can. And at the same time you go, man, like I'm entering into relationships with people. Yeah. I'm saying we're gonna text you back, right? And then how's that gone? Is that hard to keep up with? And like, how much has the growth of the marketing team been necessary around going volume of communications?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of work. Like, no doubt, it's a lot of work. I mean, it's just commitment. I mean, like to me, it's like I'm trying to build a really big brand, and so I'm willing to have push notifications on my phone every time one of our customers texts us, and we get a lot of them,
I bet.
And so, but I'm only doing it because that's what I really want, And so it's been hard. Yeah, it's my marketing team. I mean, I don't really have a team. I have one marketing manager and she has some assistants sometimes, but
yeah.
It's been a lot. I mean, the reason we do it is because we don't want any friction for the audience, like we know a lot of our customers, as big as we are on social media, I do know that a lot of our customers are, like older and like to come here on the weekends. It's just kind of fun. And they don't necessarily do Facebook and Instagram as much. I mean, I think they do to some degree, but if they want to look at their emails because they're more used to that, or they're just learned out texting and they're hot on that, that's awesome. And it's good to see it, because sometimes I love working out in the drive-through line, like on a weekend, which I don't get to do that much, but I love like seeing where everyone came from. Because I'm like, oh yeah, well, I follow this person on Instagram, they were talking about you. I'm like, okay, perfect. And some people are like, I was just driving by, I saw your store, there's a big line, figured I'd come by. They'd be like, oh yeah, I got the email, or what do you mean? Everyone's got this text, that's why everyone's here, right? Like, it's so many different things. And so I'm like, all right, this is right. And it's a good reminder to not focus on the followers, because it doesn't matter, how many followers you have. It's more about your ability to communicate with them on there. So we might only have 1,000 people that follow us on Facebook, but those people really like Facebook.
Yep.
And so no friction for the audience.
Have you done anything with like the more like something like a billboard, or because I know you're super local, right? So it's like we're in this town. So have you done anything in the geography there, in like something like that?
Not as far as outdoor print, but I mean, I'm really not like emotional to social media or ads at all. Like, I've tried things like the local coupon book, which was to date the worst investment I've made in marketing.
we were given a page for free because we were a nonprofit. They're like, we're going to throw you in there, and it went to the college next to us. So we've seen it come back, but I can imagine. I
always joke that was one of my worst investments in marketing I've ever made. It was like $600 or something. But we've never done an outdoor billboard, but I mean, like I was saying, I have done and will still do flyers on cars. I mean, it's just about work. Like, that stuff works. And a lot of the times it's as cheap as an Instagram ad, for everyone yelling. Like, there's certain things, like a TV commercial, like Gary Vee's a lot about this, right? TV commercials are overpriced, right? But I think he's also about that, there are some things that, like, something he would totally be about flyers on parking lots. Sure. You know what I mean? Because it's cheap and the only variable is your work. You know what I mean? You just got to go out there and do it. And so he's all about the cheap attention. And I feel like I'm thinking the same way, like as popular as we are on Instagram, and that's the main driver of our business. There's a little baseball stadium. There's like a minor league baseball. Every time they have a game, we go flyer them with a flyer that says, you are here, around the corner is thirst, here's a free drink. That works, and those flyers didn't cost me very much. And if I really want my business to blow up, that might be 20 new customers that night that, then lead to more sales and more sales and more sales. And so if I have time, that's something I do every day.
Yeah. One of the things I love, like, as you were just talking about, like, is like you, so using like an example, like Gary Vee or people like you've heard something like, hey, this works, or this is a good way to go about this. You like hear from other people's experience. But what I just think, what has stood out to me paying attention to you is the application. So like in some sense, like, and just applaud your, like, sure, there's a lot of people listening to this. There's a lot of people that are like taking some stab at these things, but I just think, man, you're doing a really good job on execution. Like, and I'm interested in going, it's obvious you're applying lessons. You're like, oh, I heard that. Let's put it into practice, and then go, how does that work? And I imagine a tremendous amount more learning comes out of the doing, right?
Yeah.
Like the actual work. It's like, I hear it, but it becomes wisdom as I embody it, as I actually like flesh it out and go, I know how this works now.
Yeah. I mean, I hate giving advice about entrepreneurship. It's one of the things I like the least, at least right now, because it's a hard place for me, because I don't like how much advice there is about entrepreneurship or business specifically coming from those who haven't run an actual business. I have a bad taste in my mouth about it now more than ever, because like, I really know how hard it is to run like a brick and mortar real business with employees to pay the bills. And like, I'm just like, I never want to be that guy. And I don't feel like I am that guy, but I feel like the reason, like, but in my head, I'm like, I do feel like I know a lot. And I don't think it's because of anyone I've watched or any schooling that I've done, for sure. It's the main reason is because I've been working on my businesses for the last, 10 years, 50 hours a week, and now more like 100 hours a week, like, the real reason, like, I feel like I know a lot about this stuff is because I've put in a lot of time, even compared to, some people older than me. Like, I punted my whole social life. I mean, I hung out with my friends in college, but they'll tell you, like, every second was working, every second. Same with high school, same with every day after, junior high, like every single second while, other people were doing other things, I was working. And so I struggle to like give advice, but I think as even more work comes, I'll feel even more comfortable doing it. But I think like putting in the work is the only real way to know, maybe something, I mean, obviously there are certain places where you need the schooling and that kind of education, but I think business specifically, learning by doing is the way to do it.
So something that comes up on this show a lot is, and just talking to various different people, there's this like term that comes up a lot. I struggle with this term. I imagine you do too. It's like the idea of a work-life balance.
Yeah.
So for me, I could just tell you, like, what I don't love about, I get the idea and I understand it, but there's something about it that bothers me, where it like separates work and life, where it's like, I work so I can go live. Or rather than I like work is something I live to do, or that it's part of who I am or something like that. And I'm curious, like, for you, so you go, I didn't have this social life and I was working around the clock, and I'm just trying to like anticipate the response, the critical response to that of a listener, right? That goes, I don't want that. I mean, that's fine. It's like, you want that, you don't, who cares? Do you? For one, but I'm just curious for yourself. So I saw you post the other day about working out. And so I wanted to like zero in on that, right? Cause you're like, I haven't been taking care of myself physically. And in some sense, like, that's just bad work then, because it's like, well, you got to sharpen your tools, right? Which is your mind, your body. That's like what you have. And so I was like, wanted to applaud, like, oh, you're putting in work to kind of zero in on that. But that's the kind of thing that you're like, oh, my care for myself fell by the wayside because I was sacrificing myself for this project or whatever. I just love to hear you speak to this idea, work-life balance.
I think the most important part, and I try to tell this to everyone, is even when I was talking about like, not having as much of a social life or working 24/7 since I was really little, I didn't complain about it. I'm like more happy about it now than I ever have been. I'm more happy that I put in that work. And most importantly, like, I'm happy when I'm putting in the work, and so it brings me the most joy. Like, I like working the most. I'm super competitive. I like business, and those fall in perfectly to me working a ton on my business. And sometimes that gets put into to me, it's all about priorities. I said this on another piece of content, but like, to me, it's like, how do I decide to work that much? It's because that's what I prioritize, you know. Did it prioritize over my school? Yeah, it did. You know, it has it prioritized over my, you know, health and fitness more than it should have, 100%. But like, I sleep in the bed that I make for myself too. You know, like, I'm not out here complaining that I worked too much and missed a lot of my college life. You know, those are some of the most
And
fun
I
years.
and yeah, and I honestly, like, I super relate to this. I don't hear that in that. It like resonates with me. Like, I go, yeah, there's meaning and joy and purpose, and
Yeah,
like, it's compelling to like, this is a project of your life or whatever, and it's like, yeah, you give yourself to that. It's
yeah,
valuable or whatever. And so the working out stood out to me as like a like you're you basically, I mean, I don't remember exactly how you said it, but it seemed like a bit of a corrective, right? Like, I need to address this still.
yeah. I mean,
And like,
and
make it a priority, like choose
yeah,
to prioritize something like that.
yeah. I mean, I think it's part of the recipe for me doing everything I want to do. You know, it has to be. You know, it has to be. Like, I'm not gonna be able to go. I'm very blessed with my metabolism and natural energy, where I can eat whatever I
Yeah,
want.
I saw you like sucking down soda and eating the little donut pieces, and I'm like, bro,
Yeah, I mean,
I would be
I
dead.
don't drink soda, but I drink Red Bull like it's water, you
Yeah.
know?
Yep.
And so I know, look, I know it's not going to always be that way. On the one hand, am I taking advantage of it because I'm never going to be that way again? Heck yeah, I am. You know, I'm going to
Yeah.
work
Yeah.
more now than ever because I can, you know,
Yeah.
but I also know it's part of the recipe that I got to take care of that. And so I will, you know, I will. I think I understand, then I think I get it, you know. Uh, yeah.
So I try to ask everybody I talk to, how they, and so how would you define success? What is success?
Happiness, probably.
It's
Probably
good.
just happiness, I think.
It's good.
I mean, I don't want anything else. And I feel like I am so ambitious that, you know, people want to know, like, that is what I'm not. I want to be rich, you know. Like, a lot of people ask me about money a lot. They like, either like how much I have now, which is not a lot, which is pretty much none because I've been building my businesses. I invest
Yeah.
everything in my businesses, or how much do I want to make. Like, look, like, if I was doing this for the money, I this is not the thing I would do, you know. In the long term, I think I'm gonna make a lot of money, but I mean, this is what I like doing the most, you know. Like, you would laugh. Like, I wish some of my employees, like my partner could tell you, like, when the adrenaline in my body, the goosebumps that I have, like getting ready for a triple booked catering weekend or like a huge day at the store, like, there's nothing like it. It's like, reminds me of high school football. Like, there's nothing like it at all. And I really like it. It really fires me up. And so, I mean, I'm not going for a specific number. I'm not trying to buy anything. I'm having a lot of fun and I'm trying to build a big business, and it's made me pretty happy.
God,
So
I love it, dude. That's such a good answer. I tell you what, because I know we kind of allotted some time, and I know you got a business to run. I don't want to keep you all day. I really appreciate you taking a longer chunk of time, and I think it's valuable, man. Like, just, I mean, to me, like, I've been, and I hope offline, online, I want to continue to connect with you. I actually like him, just like, I like you. You know what I mean? I've just been paying attention. I'm like, yeah, yeah. And is there anything, just before we go, like, I'm, leave you some space here. If there, I mean, I am aware that most of the kind of communications and work that you are trying to do is like really about your own town. It's local, right? And it needs to be that way. And I like, yeah, that's correct. And I know you probably have had more, like, I'm reaching out to you from across the country because you ended up on this thing, put you on like some
yeah.
other people's radar, say, hey, let's talk. Um, but for those, like, I mean, those in your own town, but even outside, like, I just curious the things you might want to point people to, or encourage people to do, or ask people for, like, if there's just want to leave you some space here to kind of, for whoever's listening. What do you want to tell them? What do you want to share with them?
I mean, as far as what I'm up to, I mean, I think I'm documenting the journey of like becoming a really big entrepreneur. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like I was telling you, like, I'm moving into my new locations, moving into a town with a couple of my new competitors, and I'm super, super excited about it. So whether someone's local or not local, I'm gonna be documenting that journey, and I think it's gonna be a lot of fun for me. I use my Ethan from Thirst account. I use that really to just have someone to talk to. But I do think that the stuff that I'm going into right now is super interesting, especially if you're into business or just competition or, building something big and meaningful at all. It's super fun to kind of latch onto. The other thing is, I think that the marketing tactics coming from Thirst and myself are very much state and are super, super powerful no matter what kind of product you're selling. I mean, Instagram direct message, like I don't hear a ton of people talking about that. That is, or like texting a brand, like, or the kind of content we put out, or like I would encourage people to see the kind of content we put out, see if it feels Sally or if it feels brand building, see the kind of collaborations that we're doing, because I really do think they can help a lot. And yeah, I mean, I have no like goal to funnel someone in to anything. I don't really sell anything like that, but I think I'm going into a fun journey. I'm kind of documenting my thing, if nothing else, just for me to have someone to talk to about it. Like that's why I like doing this kind of stuff. It's like,
Yep.
I mean, as you know, like putting out fires, entrepreneurship is just like, it's just crazy, and it's like lonely, and you got to come up with solutions, all the time. And so a lot of people are looking at you at what solution you're going to come up with next. And it's a lot of pressure, man. And it's fun to talk to someone about it. It's fun to talk to my Instagram about it. And so that's the kind of stuff you'll see from me, is tactics, things that are working in my business, solutions that I'm coming up with, moves that I'm making, work that I'm doing.
Yeah. So for those that are listening, and he's particularly been putting a lot of this at Ethan from Thirst, and really encourage everybody to follow that account. I have been so appreciative of just kind of watching the journey a little bit. And as you're kind of documenting that, I'm like, dude, it's very valuable. It's very good. And beyond any like, oh, it's valuable to me, but it's like, man, the accumulation of this story, like 20 years from now, whatever, it's really exciting. It'll be exciting for you to have, right, as you bring up a family or whatever. You said about talking about the competition and moving into that space, and I don't know if this is like a thing. You said like there's a soda war. I don't know if there's like that. I'm just like, man, what a good show, dude. Like, it just sounds like it is itself a show.
I'm saying, dude, I think someone should come with the show about
I'm like, dude, this is so good. Like, yeah, it's like, all right, we're going this Soda Wars season 1. We're here.
I mean, it's war. Like, I mean, I love talking about it. The biggest competitor in my industry is named Swig. And
that's a nasty, I don't like that word. I don't.
Swig, home of the dirty soda. And then Soda, that's what they call it. No, that's their thing, really. Dirty soda. That's what they call it. So they do drinks and treats. They're opening literally less than half a mile below me. And then below that is one called Sodalicious. And they're probably equally as big as Swig. I don't know. But I know that the two biggest names in the industry. And I feel like coming out of left field a little bit. Like I'm the company that like, they're like, because they have way more locations than I do, but I almost have as many followers than they do. like it's that kind of company where like everyone's talking about it. Like all of the I feel like the Utah influencers on Instagram, like you've connected or heard about Thirst just because we are so trying to connect with everyone online. And so I know the competitors are super aware of us, which I think makes it fun. I always try to tag them and my stuff.
That's good.
But I mean, I think they have great businesses. I mean, the way my outlook on it is like, I'm not trying to take them out. I don't think they're bad businesses. Like, this is the best part about business, like I think like we get to go into competition with each other in the same little area. And like, maybe there's not room for 3 people, in that neighborhood. So that could be fun. I mean, that's just how it works. Isn't that the whole point of business? Like trying to bring the most value, competing against your competitors. And so that's my favorite part about business. I think it's going to be super fun. I think it's going to be super crazy. I think there's going to be a lot of brand loyalty, and I think it's going to come down to who works the hardest, straight up. And so, I mean, I think the way I'm planning on winning is, I mean, these are now corporate companies that I'm competing against. The way I'm going to be able to win is the fact that I'm going to be able to, I can put flyers on the local high schools. I can go essentially door to door. I can go business to business, converting people to my product. I can run more local based ads. I can spend more just targeting locally. They have a lot of locations to think about. And so on the flip side, if they hear this, because I'm going to post it, like if they hear this and they want to, center down more locally, that's going to be all the more fun, you know? Like, so I think it's awesome. So I'm super, super excited. I think it's going to be a straight war. Like I said, I think there's going to be a lot of brand loyalty. I think the surrounding neighborhoods that we're moving into, I think they're going to overplay the brand game. Like, which team are you on? Which I'm super excited
That's
about too.
awesome.
Yeah. And so, it's going to be fun, but I'm going for the gold.
If anyone listening from particularly in the kind of following of the Thirsty Nation, if you're a up and coming filmmaker, if you're in school for film, if you're looking to kind of cut your teeth on a project, you should reach out to Ethan and make Soda Wars. Like I genuinely think like just use it as your college project, do something like that. And I think this is going to be something that whether someone does it or not, you're just going to be documenting it. I'm going to be following along. It's going to be super exciting to see, but like however this plays out, it's going to be a killer story. And like, this is, I hope someone reaches out to you. I really hope you're able to kind of put that together, man.
Oh, thank you, brother. Well, thank you for giving me more awareness about it. I always appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Well, I tell you what, dude, I really appreciate your time, and I plan to continue reaching out to you to stay in touch, man. I just as peers, right? Hopefully we can continue in a relationship, man. But